Renewables, what is it all about now? I'm Steve Oldroyd. DJO ECO is a company that's grown out of a couple of us ideas. We are a renewable consultancy, for better want of a phrase. And my background from where to where I am now proves that Darwin's theory of evolution actually works, because I started as an electrician in the coal board, electrical engineer, now I'm in renewables, so we're moving with the times. So where it all started obviously was from the Kyoto Protocol, which started being talked about in '94 and came in '97, and obviously was entered into force in 2005, which is 10 years ago now. So the mandatory targets we're all aware of, or we should be aware of, and I know you're all going to get a copy of this anyway, so I'll not go through the detail. But the renewables industry effectively grew from these initiatives. The Kyoto essentially focused on with reducing the carbon footprint, but the renewables industry grew from that. Now, we obviously looking at the basic naturally replenished salt resources, sunlight, wind and biomass. I've purposely not gone into water, hydro, because they are not scalable to domestic application, which is what we're looking at here. Not many of us can fit a hydro generation plant in our back garden, so I'm concentrating on the sun, the wind and the biomass. So all started obviously with small scale solar applications, solar PV to start with, wind and the biomass, and there's a big industry obviously generated from this, and it's getting bigger by the day. The where we are now, it's we're now contributing 19% of our energy consumption and 22% to electricity generation, and the worldwide investment is more than 139.3 billion. Well, that was 2013, so it'll be even more now. So you can see it's a massive industry for people to get involved in. There's a lot of people come and gone as the times have gone on for various reasons. Lack of professionalism. When an opportunity presents itself, lots of companies tend to go into those areas and not make such a good impression, take the money and run basically. We try to put things together such that we get a professional edge to what we do. We're part of an international consortium for solar PV generation. We partnered with one of the largest solar PV manufacturers in the world, the largest solar PV installer in the world, and we're working alongside the UK's largest as well. So we've spent a lot of time to pull all this together, and we're now working internationally to try and give a professional edge to this industry. So where we are now, trying to show there the size of the prize, as it were, the solar fields now. Any of you go up and down the A1 on the train, north to south, you'll see all the around about the Newark area, some massive fields full of solar PV, and that's the way that we need to go. The upside of that is that obviously we're putting extra generation, so we're taking the burden from fossil fuel generation, such as the coal-fired power stations, gas, etc., which are obviously working on depleted resources. But as time goes on, like for example last year, I know Ferry Bridge came offline due to an incident. A power station in Nottingham came offline, and I know it caused serious problems. These guys probably know more about it than I do, but it caused major problems to the grid nationally, because we've got two major power stations off. Now, if the renewables was where it should be, then we would be able to carry that burden without much of a problem. Obviously, also the wind farms are taking off massively. The land-based ones, primarily, I think it's the offshore ones that are doing the bulk of the work. One thing that is out at sea is lots of wind, so they're working very well out there. and the bio plants as well are getting absolutely massive. I don't know if you can see that top right hand one that talks about the various capacities excuse me, around the country for the solar installations, but the company that we're working with have got almost 300 megawatts of installation in the UK, which is quite a sizable chunk. So as I say, the industry is moving on at a pace, but what we need to do is to make the infrastructure so that it will it'll work with it, as has been alluded to earlier. Now, what we do is we can do the free solar PV installations for domestic and commercials. We're contracted to do by the middle of this year. We'll be installing about 10 megawatts a month of solar PV. Now, obviously, there might be a slight barrier to that, as again you've heard alluded to earlier. We might not have the capacity to put that on, so it might be installed and stood waiting for to be able to connect it onto the grid. It's not a rent-a-roof system. It's a totally new concept. There's no contracts to enter into. There's no leasing arrangements with leasing your roof out for 20 years, and vastly reduced electricity costs, a minimum of 50% saving. Now, there's one scheme that we can put together for housing associations, councils, where they've got over 500 roofs to put these systems on, whereby the council has to put up 10% of the overall cost to start with, but then they make interest on that going forward over the 10-15 year period of the contract. Now, that's quite a big benefit in that you're guaranteeing free energy to all the users. So we can eradicate fuel poverty, and the council's going to make money on their investment. And if they haven't got the money to put up in the front, we can arrange for that to be loaned to them, and they still get the interest. I can't figure out how that works. I'm not an accountant, but that does definitely work as a scheme. So it's definitely worth looking at. And we can also do the free biomass installations for domestic and commercial. Now, this is a product that I've been involved with the material that drives this. This is a product called ECO. I've been involved with this for nearly 20 years now. The ECO product itself for almost 4, which is a product that can be applied to a water tank, as you see there, connected to solar PV, and it heats water for nothing. For absolutely nothing. And it gets the water in the tank up to 80 degrees centigrade, so you can work on a buffer zone, because obviously nobody can use water at 80 degrees, so it has to be cooled to use. So working on using water at 40 degrees, that 150 litre tank that you see there effectively is a 300 litre tank of 80 degrees water, which is a phenomenal move forward. The problems we've had in this industry is something that one of my colleagues is going to come on tomorrow, is everybody sees it, fantastic product, it's going to do really, really well. They trial it, they love it, and nobody wants to make a decision. So as I said, there's a product there that's it's been accepted outside of the UK quite readily, but in the UK, in England in particular, we've struggled because people just don't get it, if that's the right phrase. Scotland is a new market to us, and we're hoping that people will be a little more open-minded with the way that they view this product. So as I say, we've got all this shown upstairs if any of you are interested in the breakout period. So, where are we going? So at least 30 nations around the world already have renewable energy, contributing to more than 20% of the energy supply, and obviously it's going to grow in the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to grow astronomically. And increasing the energy installations dedicated to rural and remote areas and developing countries, that's got to be an advantage. We're looking at quite a number of, I don't like using the term, but third world countries that haven't got grid, that haven't got much apart from sunlight, and we are working hard to be able to install very, very cost effectively through the World Bank and through governments to be able to install quite large solar PV installations. The renewable energy initiatives, obviously, that will bring the poorest nations to new levels of prosperity because it's giving them energy that they didn't have before, so that they can build industries and generate their own wealth going forward. Look at the future. Please don't ask me questions on these because this is not my bag at all. But cellulosic ethanol, marine energy, enhanced geothermal systems, experimental solar power, and artificial photosynthesis. I do know a little bit about that last one. This is the way that the industry is going. The point I'm trying to make here is that we are where we are now, and there's more and more quantum leaps coming forward, and this industry will grow particularly, well, it'll be massive over the next few years, to a point where, as you can see on the second one there, it's been promoted that by 2030 we will be self-sufficient on renewable energy. Now that's a major contribution, not just to this country but to the world, because obviously the fossil fuels are dying, and we need to be able to get around that fact. And at the bottom there, Dr. Mark Z. Jacobson, he's a professor who was at some point the person who's projected all these figures forward and projected by 2030 that we will be self-sufficient. So we haven't got long. 15 years is not a long time. When you look at what's happened in the last 15, we can hopefully take that forward. Oops. The one thing that I do need to raise, as I was talking with the colleagues earlier, is as I understand it now, power stations, fossil fuel stations, are being throttled back, as it were, to enhance their lives, to extend their lives, because they can only work for so many million hours, and also to conserve the fossil fuels. We, obviously, to put anything above 10 kilowatts onto a system, have to have a DNO. Applied to the DNO to get permission to put it onto the grid. Now this to us is becoming quite a barrier at this moment in time, in that some areas of the country we can get through in 2, 3, 4 days. We've had some in now from the beginning of December in the Midlands, and we've still not got them back. So we've got quite a large backlog of work. Now I'm not bitching about this, not from a commercial point of view, just from a realistic point of view, that if we're going to take this forward, we have to have a top-down view on this. And the DNOs, I know it might be causing work for some of my colleagues here, but the DNOs have to be brought into line, really, in that when something goes in, there's got to be a sort of a quick response, and if there isn't, they can't respond quick enough. We've got to get more people to make it respond, because this is the future. It's our old future, for us, our children, grandchildren, etc. So it needs that going forward. So, as I say, it needs a top-down view to make this work in a cohesive way. Anyway, I'll finish there, but thank you very much for listening. I hope it's helped in some way. Thank you.